Welcome back to the deep dive. This is where we take those huge stacks of sources you send our way and we just pull out the essential knowledge. We give you that shortcut to being well informed.
And today, we've got a really complex one.
We do. Our mission today is a deep dive into, well, the dual legacy of a figure whose influence, it stretches so far beyond the boundaries of the soccer pitch, Megan Rapinoe.
Yeah, and this is a complicated exploration. We're not just looking at an elite athlete here.
Yeah.
What we're really doing is charting the course of a true cultural icon.
The sources we have are incredibly rich. They detail everything from her athletic journey, collegiate resilience, that spectacular World Cup glory, all the way to her unwavering and very high-profile role as an activist.
Especially in those fights for equal pay and LGBTQIA plus rights. It's a huge part of her story.
It is. I mean, we have material that covers her entire life and career. And the numbers alone, they tell a story. You're looking at 205 club appearances, 203 international caps. It's incredible.
But then you see the other side of it, the honors. The Ballon d'Or, the best FIFA women's player, and then something like the Presidential Medal of Freedom.
Exactly. And you realize the accolades are, they're almost perfectly divided between her athletic genius on one hand and her political courage on the other.
So our goal here is to really weave those two narratives together seamlessly. We want to understand how the injuries she had early on actually shaped her mentality.
Right. And how the economic instability she faced as a young pro maybe fueled her activism.
And of course, how her success on the pitch gave her the power, the platform to have such a loud voice off of it. This isn't just a biography. It's really an exploration of how an athlete redefined what it means to be a champion in the modern era.
Okay, let's unpack this. Let's start right at the foundation.
Let's do it.
So Rapinoe was born in Redding, California back in 1985. She has a fraternal twin, Rachel, and they both started playing soccer really, really early.
Yeah, at age 3. And a lot of that initial inspiration came from their older brother, Brian.
And it's this relationship with Brian that our sources keep pointing to as, foundational. Foundational to her political consciousness that would come much later.
Absolutely. The sources really highlight this duality. While Megan was on this path, pursuing excellence in soccer, her family life was grappling with these immense challenges, all revolving around Brian.
And what were those challenges specifically?
He struggled profoundly with drug abuse, and that led to frequent and often very lengthy periods of incarceration in different prisons, notably Pelican Bay State Prison, which is a supermax facility.
So this isn't abstract for her. She wasn't just reading about systemic issues in a book. She was living through the direct consequences of the carceral system, the addiction crisis, things that disproportionately affect, marginalized communities.
Precisely. That experience must have grounded her activism in a way that's totally different than, say, an athlete who just decides to sign on to a cause later in life.
Right. It informs a deep empathy for sure, but it also sounds like it gave her a more sophisticated understanding of injustice from a very young age.
It did. And it gets even more complex.
The sources note that Brian's challenges weren't just with the cycle of incarceration. Inside the prison system, he also experienced and was, for a time, involved with elements of white supremacist groups.
Wow.
So as a young person, she's witnessing all these layered societal failures right in her own family. Addiction, incarceration, racial prejudice. It gave her this deeply personal mandate for criminal justice reform and for racial equity. It just adds a whole other layer of gravity to every political action she took later in her career.
And what's so fascinating is this dynamic of these two parallel paths. Her brother is battling these immense internal and external demons while she is achieving this elite, world-class athletic success.
The sources even suggest that her success, her visibility, eventually served as a source of motivation for him. It was something that drove him toward sobriety later in his life.
That narrative right there, it provides a crucial insight into her character. You can see how she learned early on that life is messy, it's often contradictory. She learned resilience, and she learned the importance of visibility, both for her own success and for advocating for people who are marginalized by the very systems that caught her brother.
So from this really complicated family background, she moves on to the University of Portland. She gets a full scholarship, and her arrival there was immediately impactful.
Oh, yeah. In 2005, as a freshman, she was a central force, maybe the central force, in leading the Portland Pilots to a completely undefeated season and the NCAA Division I Women's Soccer Championship.
And her contribution that season was I mean, just remarkable for a first-year player.
15 goals and 13 assists. It showed she was already this mature playmaker. She was combining this high-level technical skill with just exceptional on-field vision.
But just as her career is really taking off, fate intervenes, and it comes in the form of injury.
And this is the injury narrative that is so central to her entire development. She suffered not just one, but two separate season-ending ACL injuries.
The first was in 2006, and the second one came in 2007. So you're talking about missing 2 full seasons of soccer, including the 2007 World Cup and the 2008 Beijing Olympics. That must have felt like a absolutely crushing blow at the time.
Devastating.
Yeah.
I mean, not just physically, but psychologically. She's watching these prime international opportunities just pass her by from the sidelines.
Yeah.
But this is the moment. This is the period of genuine self-reflection that the sources really, really highlight. The injury became her crucible.
She actually characterized this experience with a really powerful quote. She said, "I know this sounds weird, but getting hurt was one of the best things that ever happened to me. It really gave me a different perspective."
And she goes on, "The rehab process makes you stronger on all fronts, mentally and physically. I feel stronger and a better person for it. I would never wish it on anyone, but I don't wish I could take it back."
That is not your typical athlete boilerplate, I'll come back stronger line.
Not at all. That quote reveals a pivot from being solely focused on performance to, well, gaining perspective. The forced downtime, it allowed her to engage with the world beyond the training pitch.
Right.
And the sources suggest that the discipline required for a dual ACL rehab, which is this intense, focused, often solitary work, that's what forged the mental toughness she would need to become this highly visible activist years and years later.
It's basically the origin story of her perseverance. But if her college experience was defined by injury and recovery, her jump to the professional game was defined by economic instability. She gets drafted second overall in the 2009 WPS draft.
By the Chicago Red Stars, yeah. And this period, the late 2000s, early 2010s, it's so critical for understanding the landscape before the NWSL existed. The Women's Professional Soccer League, the WPS, it was a league built on really shaky foundations.
And we see that in her career path. She's bouncing around so quickly. First the Chicago Red Stars, then the Philadelphia Independents, and then a team called Magic Jack.
3 teams in 3 years. That rapid movement was just characteristic of the league's volatility. Nobody had any stability.
And the economic details that are in the sources, they just perfectly illustrate the chaos. We know her transfer fee to Magic Jack was reportedly $100,000.
Which, on the surface, sounds great. It suggests she was valued very highly as a commodity.
But then you contrast that with the average female player salary at the time, which was, a paltry $25,000 a year. And you just see this massive, massive disparity.
And that's the whole thesis of the future equal pay fight right there in those 2 numbers. The league recognized the player's market value, evidenced by that 6-figure transfer fee.
Sure.
But the institutional structures, it just refused to pay the players anything that approached a sustainable professional salary.
Okay.
$25,000 a year means most of these elite athletes are working second jobs or living below the poverty line.
It created this system where their professional status was purely nominal. It was in name only. The league structure just couldn't support the talent it had.
And so operations were suspended entirely in early 2012. The whole league just collapsed.
So to stay sharp during this collapse, she has to take these brief, kind of necessary detours.
She does. She played a couple of games for Sydney FC in Australia, and then she joined the Seattle Sounders women in the USLW League in 2012. And that was alongside some other big national team stars like Hope Solo and Alex Morgan.
And even those brief stints, they just underscore the hypocrisy of the whole system. That Seattle Sounders women team with those stars became an immediate massive draw.
The sources are pretty clear on this. Their average attendance that season was 4 times higher than the next closest team in the entire league.
4 times. The fans were there. The talent was obviously world class. The financial structure was just fundamentally broken.
It demonstrates that the players were box office. They could sell tickets even when the league structure wasn't ready to sustain them. And that massive gap between the proven value they brought in ticket sales and enthusiasm and the complete failure of the institution, that is the foundational economic injustice that Rapinoe would spend the rest of her career trying to correct. It gives so much context to her later actions.
Okay, so given all that instability in the U.S., it's completely understandable that she looked abroad. In early 2013, she signs a 6-month contract with Olympique Lyonnais.
Lyon, in France.
Yeah.
And this was a move from, let's be honest, amateur-level structural chaos to the absolute pinnacle of established European club football.
Lyon was the ultimate standard at that time.
The ultimate. They had won 6 consecutive French league titles and 2 straight UEFA Women's Champions League titles. For Rapinoe, this wasn't just about a paycheck.
Although the paycheck was better.
Much better. It was reported at around 11,000 euros per month, which is significantly more stable and lucrative than anything the WPS could offer. But it was also a chance for her to compete consistently at a level that actually matched her international profile.
And she got that crucial European experience immediately. She played in the UEFA Women's Champions League, debuting in the 2012-13 quarterfinal.
She even scored in the semifinal, helping Lyon reach the final, where they did ultimately lose 1-0 to VfL Wolfsburg.
But just by playing in that final, she became only the 5th American woman ever to achieve that distinction. It really solidified her status as a global player.
But while this is happening back in the U.S., a new opportunity was brewing. The National Women's Soccer League, the NWSL, was launching in 2013. And this league was structured specifically to avoid the pitfalls of the WPS.
And she comes back home. She becomes an allocated player for the Seattle Reign FC, the team that would eventually become OL Reign. And this concept of an allocated player, that's really key to understanding the NWSL's initial stability, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's the whole ballgame. The NWSL basically solved the salary problem that crippled the WPS by having the U.S. Soccer Federation, along with the Canadian and Mexican federations, subsidize the salaries of their own national team players.
So players like Rapinoe had their salaries covered by the federation.
Exactly. It ensured they were paid closer to their market value, and it relieved the immense financial pressure on these fledgling club teams. And that crucial stability, where she was guaranteed a high, reliable salary, that's what allowed her to commit long-term to a single club.
And her arrival in Seattle was, nothing short of transformative for that franchise. The Reign were having a terrible inaugural season. They were sitting at a dreadful 0-9-1 record when she joined mid-season.
And the change was immediate. She didn't just add her technical skill. She brought star power, she brought media attention, and she brought a massive morale boost. She became the team's leading scorer despite playing in only 12 of the 22 regular season games.
I remember one of her early games was against her old club, the Chicago Red Stars.
Yeah, and she scored twice and assisted once in that game. She was named NWSL Player of the Week almost instantly. She was the catalyst, the single person who pulled that team out of the cellar.
And that commitment to the Seattle franchise, it defined the next decade of her club career. She was instrumental in the team winning the NWSL Shield, that's the regular season Title III, separate times.
First back-to-back in 2014 and 2015, and then again much later in her career in 2022.
She was such a consistent presence and a leader there. Even in 2021, late in her career, she was serving as co-captain alongside Lauren Barnes.
Still performing at a high level. She scored 6 goals in 12 appearances that year, was named NWSL Player of the Month in August. She sustained elite performance for a full 10 years within one system. That level of stability was just completely unheard of in American women's professional soccer before her.
Which brings us to 2023. She announced her retirement would follow the NWSL season and the World Cup, marking the final chapter of her storied club career.
And the love that city had for her was just so evident in her send-off. Her final regular season home match in October 2023, it was a landmark moment.
It really was. It set a new NWSL record for attendance, 34,130 fans at Lumen Field.
It was this massive emotional celebration of her impact on the league, on the sport, and on the community that she helped build for a decade.
But the narrative twist that followed was just brutal. It was almost cinematic in its cruelty. The Reign make it all the way to the NWSL Championship final against NJNY Gotham.
Her final match.
Her final match. And just 3 minutes into the final match of her entire club career, she goes down. She suffers a torn Achilles tendon.
It was an immediate catastrophic injury.
Yep.
A non-contact play. You could just feel the air go out of the stadium. And this sudden realization that her final professional moment on a field would be defined by agony and a premature exit.
Such a poignant irony. For an athlete who's all about the spectacle, the grand gesture, the defiant presence, for her final moment of play to be defined by silence and fragility.
The sources noted the immediate emotional toll it took on her teammates, and on the whole stadium. Just a gut punch.
And given that she defined her entire career by demanding better and refusing to quit, was there any reflection in the source material about that cool twist? Or did the focus just immediately shift to her non-athletic legacy?
Well, the discussion immediately acknowledged the brutal reality of it, that the fairy tale ending was denied. But her own reaction, as noted in the interviews that followed, it was really characteristic of her.
Ah, so.
She focused on the moment of shared pain with her teammates. She expressed gratitude for the opportunity to even be there, rather than dwelling on the injustice of the injury itself. It really highlights that for her, the focus was always on the collective effort, even when her own individual career ended with this sudden, devastating personal loss.
So if her club career was a story of building stability, her international career with the U.S. women's national team was just a collection of singular, high-stakes moments that are now permanently etched in soccer lore.
And that journey wasn't without its challenges either, even on the international stage. Her senior team debut was way back in 2006.
Right before the injuries.
Exactly. But because of those two ACL injuries, she was sidelined for two massive events, the 2007 World Cup and the 2008 Olympics. So when she finally returned to the national team rotation in 2009, she immediately led the team in points. It was like she was making a statement.
A statement that the physical recovery was complete and that her mental resolve was, if anything, even harder.
And her first major challenge came in 2010 during this really crucial UEFA CONCACAF playoff against Italy. The U.S. team was basically fighting for its life just to qualify for the 2011 World Cup.
And she provides the decisive moment. She assists the game-winning goal that secures the U.S. team's place in Germany. And that really sets the stage for her true international breakout in that 2011 World Cup.
That tournament saw her score her first big goal on the international stage. It was during the group match against Colombia. But the goal itself is actually less memorable than the celebration that followed it.
Oh yeah, the microphone.
Exactly. She scores, she runs over to an on-field microphone that was being used for the broadcast commentary. She taps it, and she sings a little snippet of Bruce Springsteen's Born in the USA.
It was this completely impromptu, playful moment that just captured her personality perfectly. It went viral instantly, and it really marked her emergence as this figure with undeniable cultural charisma.
That was the appetizer. The main course came in the quarterfinal against Brazil, a match that is still legendary in women's soccer.
Okay, set the scene for us.
The U.S. is down 2-1 in overtime. They're playing a player down, so they're shorthanded, and they are facing elimination. Rapinoe comes on as a substitute.
And this is where her technical mastery just shines under the most immense pressure imaginable. It's the 122nd minute of the game. We're talking literally seconds from defeat.
She gathers the ball on the left flank, and from way out, she delivers this precise, driven, 40-yard cross that somehow, almost impossibly, drops perfectly onto Abby Wambach's head for the equalizer.
That goal still holds the record for the latest ever scored in a World Cup match. And the cross itself was just a moment of technical brilliance driven by pure instinct.
The quote we have from her describing it is just wonderful. It captures that raw, unplanned nature of genius. She just said, "I just took a touch and friggin' smacked it with my left foot. I don't think I've hit a ball like that with my left foot. I got it to the back post, and that beast in the air just got a hold of it."
That beast in the air being Abby Wambach, of course.
Of course. It just shows it wasn't some rehearsed play. It was an impulsive, perfect execution born out of desperation and immense talent.
And that moment, which earned ESPN's 2011 ESPY Award for Best Play of the Year, that's what established her reputation as the one you turn to in those high-pressure, late-game situations.
And that reputation was absolutely cemented in the 2012 London Olympics. She was central to the U.S., winning the gold medal, leading the team with 4 assists, and scoring 3 goals herself.
But there's one technical achievement from that tournament that stands out above all the others.
We have to talk about the Olympico.
We do. She scored a goal directly from a corner kick. Not once, but twice during that single tournament.
This is a feat of technical brilliance that really needs a deeper explanation. An Olympico, it requires incredible power, an insane amount of curve, and you have to read the wind conditions perfectly.
You have to strike the ball just right. You're trying to impart this massive amount of top spin and side spin, this bend that starts the ball moving away from the goal and then makes it curve back sharply into the net.
It is exceedingly rare at the professional level. I mean, for any player. For her to score 2 in a single Olympic tournament, it means she mastered this specific set piece like few players in history ever have.
And she is still the first and only player, male or female, to score an Olympico at the Olympic Games.
Just showcases her unparalleled set-piece mastery and vision. And that tournament also featured her critical role in the semifinal win against Canada, which was an all-time classic match.
A dramatic back-and-forth battle.
It was. And Rapinoe scored 2 separate game-equalizing goals in that match, just showing her capacity to constantly drag the team back into contention. She set the stage for Alex Morgan's winner in the 123rd minute. She was just the definition of relentless.
Now, she was sidelined for much of the 2015 World Cup because of another ACL tear, which she sustained during the Victory Tour training later that year. But her final athletic peak came in the 2019 World Cup in France. And this tournament was her moment of singular global dominance.
It truly was the culmination of her entire playing career. She was the driving force behind the U.S. winning its 2nd consecutive title. Her performance was so commanding that she swept all the major individual honors.
She won the Golden Boot as the top scorer with 6 goals.
Winning the tiebreaker by playing the fewest minutes.
And she also won the Golden Ball as the best player of the entire tournament.
The sources really emphasized that her presence transcended the tournament itself. She wasn't just scoring goals, she was leading a movement on and off the field. In the final against the Netherlands, she scored her 50th international goal on a penalty kick, which secured the 2-0 win.
And notably, at age 34, she became the oldest woman ever to score in a World Cup final. The 2019 tournament just provided the perfect high watermark for her. It was this unquestioned athletic excellence combined with her unapologetic activism.
Which we'll get into next, yeah.
Her international career then wrapped up with a bronze medal at the 2020 Tokyo Olympics, where, just for good measure, she scored another Olympico in the bronze medal match victory against Australia.
Of course she did. However, her final World Cup appearance in 2023, it ended with that painful, abrupt narrative shift we noted earlier. The USWNT was knocked out unexpectedly early in the round of 16 against Sweden.
And in the dramatic penalty shootout that decided the match, Rapinoe, of all people, missed her shot. That was her final competitive touch in a World Cup.
It's just such a powerful illustration that brilliance doesn't guarantee a clean ending. Even a career defined by game-winning clutch moments can end on a heartbreaking miss.
Okay, so her athletic achievements are monumental, we've established that. But many people would argue her greatest legacy is entirely off the field, that her activism fundamentally changed the political role of the American athlete.
Yeah, I think you can trace the flashpoint of her visible political career back to the September 2016. At an international match, she knelt during the national anthem.
And this was in solidarity with the NFL player Colin Kaepernick, who was protesting police brutality and systemic racism.
Right. And that single action immediately put her right in the center of a national controversy. It distinguished her as one of the very few white athletes, and certainly the most visible female athlete, to join Kaepernick's protests at that time.
And her rationale was, it was clear, it was direct, and it was specifically tied to her own identity. She stated, "Being a gay American, I know what it means to look at the flag and not have it protect all of your liberties."
So she framed it not as disrespect for the military or for the nation, but as a small, necessary act to spark a dialogue about issues that affect racial minorities and the queer community.
The backlash from the establishment, though, was immediate, and it was heavy. We saw this unprecedented institutional maneuvering, like the Washington Spirit, her club team's opponent, playing the anthem uncharacteristically early, specifically to deny her the platform to protest.
And U.S. Soccer, her employer, reacted by issuing a statement that mandated that players were expected to stand and honor our flag, which effectively was an attempt to silence her.
And how did she react to that?
She characterized that response as pretty cowardly, and she doubled down. She stated that she would probably never sing the anthem again. And that level of defiant commitment, right in the face of direct institutional pressure, it just showed that her priorities were rooted in social justice first.
That courage then transferred directly to the fight for equal pay, where she was a leading figure since at least 2016. She wasn't just a figurehead in this. She was actively involved in pushing the legal and public pressure campaigns.
The most significant action was the March 2019 lawsuit. She and 27 of her teammates filed it against the U.S. Soccer Federation for gender discrimination.
And they were aiming to achieve pay equity with the men's national team. The lawsuit highlighted all these disparities in pay, playing conditions, travel arrangements, medical treatment, everything.
Now, this is where the legal complexity comes in, and we should be really clear about what the sources report here impartially. A judge dismissed key parts of that lawsuit in May of 2020.
Right. So why was it dismissed?
Well, the sources show the dismissal was legally complex. Crucially, the USWNT had in the past negotiated a collective bargaining agreement, a CBA, that prioritized higher fixed salaries and greater security, so guaranteed pay regardless of performance. And That was different from the high-performance-based bonus structure that the men's team had accepted. So the judge argued that because the players had accepted this different contract structure, they couldn't fully prove discrimination on the basis of gender when their overall compensation might, in some years, actually be comparable or even higher, especially in years where the men's team failed to qualify for major tournaments.
So the legal system, at least initially, it failed to deliver the outcome they wanted. But the public pressure and the political optics of the situation, which Rapinoe amplified significantly through her media appearances, that really forced the issue.
Exactly. The lawsuit, even though it was partially dismissed, it acted as this massive catalyst. The public support, driven largely by Rapinoe's huge visible platform in the lead-up to the 2019 World Cup, it forced the USSF to the bargaining table. The legal fight may have had setbacks, but the political victory ultimately led to a groundbreaking settlement that did secure equal pay and revenue sharing for the national teams.
Beyond the economics, Rapinoe has been this enduring voice for LGBTQIA+ advocacy. She publicly came out way back in 2012, which provided huge, high-profile visibility for the queer community in elite sports at a time when that was much less common.
That visibility was crucial. She actively supported organizations like GLSEN and Athlete Ally. She joined the latter as an ambassador in 2013 and was recognized with the Board of Directors Award from the Los Angeles Gay and Lesbian Center in 2012. She understood that simply existing, openly and successfully, was a powerful form of activism.
And her advocacy has extended specifically to transgender rights, which is, as we know, an extremely volatile political topic today.
And she's taken a definitive and unwavering stance on it. She's characterized bills that ban transgender women from sports as an effort to, quote, legislate away people's full humanity. She consistently uses her platform to advocate for inclusion and to fight against discriminatory legislation, often facing really intense public scrutiny as a result.
And tying this back to her personal narrative, her relationship with the WNBA superstar Sue Bird is a major cultural milestone. They started dating in late 2016, got engaged in 2020, and they really became a sporting power couple.
Their shared public identity provides immense cultural representation. I mean, they achieved a groundbreaking moment by becoming the first same-sex couple ever featured on the cover of ESPN's The Body issue back in 2018. They just normalized queer partnership at the highest level of professional sports, which offers inspiration and visibility to millions.
And we should circle back one more time to her formative years. The sources explicitly confirm that her older brother Brian's struggles with incarceration, his involvement with white supremacist groups inside the prison system, that all profoundly informed her very strong views on racial justice.
This connection adds this crucial layer of authenticity and vulnerability to her activism. Her commitment isn't theoretical. It's rooted in seeing how systemic failures affect the people closest to you. It just makes her position on criminal justice reform rooted in this complex, lived experience, not just some political ideology.
And finally, her direct political and philanthropic engagement is really broad. She endorsed Elizabeth Warren in the 2020 Democratic presidential primaries, showing an active political preference.
She also hosted a panel with frontline workers at the 2020 Democratic National Convention. And she's committed financially, too. She's a member of the Common Goal campaign, where she pledges 1% of her wages to soccer-related charities all over the world.
She was also extremely vocal in the political sphere on women's rights, publicly criticizing the overturning of Roe v. Wade in 2022.
Yeah, she had signed an amicus brief supporting abortion rights the year before that. Her life is just this seamless integration of athletic performance and broad political action.
So her impact, it's validated not just by the trophy she won, but by the highest civilian and cultural honors a person can receive. 2019 was her year of the Triple Crown. She secured the Ballon d'Or Féminin, the Best FIFA Women's Player, and Sports Illustrated's Sportsperson of the Year.
And those awards are so significant because they recognized not just the 6 goals she scored in the World Cup. They recognized the moral leadership she exerted at the same time. Winning the Sports Illustrated honor especially, that was a recognition that she was the most influential sports figure globally that year because she was using her platform to force change.
And her legacy was truly cemented in July 2022 when she received the Presidential Medal of Freedom from President Joe Biden. That is the nation's highest civilian honor.
It's a huge distinction. The White House specifically cited her advocacy for gender equity, racial justice, and LGBTQIA+ rights. They stated she was being honored for her commitment to these ideals both on and off the field. It officially enshrined her activist legacy into American national history.
And her cultural presence just exploded after that. She was the first openly gay woman featured in the Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue in 2019. She was on the covers of Marie Claire, InStyle, Sports Illustrated. She successfully navigated that transition from being a sports star to being a genuine mainstream cultural icon.
And she leveraged that platform masterfully. She wasn't just doing, puff pieces. She became a regular presence on major political and mainstream talk shows, The Daily Show, The Rachel Maddow Show, Meet the Press. She used these appearances to discuss policy, systemic injustice, and political issues. She effectively became a major political commentator in addition to being an athlete.
Her personal story became a high-value commodity in itself. Her memoir, One Life, which came out in 2020, became a New York Times bestseller.
And it was immediately optioned by Sony Pictures Television for adaptation into a scripted TV series. Her life narrative is seen as this pivotal story of modern American sport and culture.
Her influence spans all demographics. She's been in the EA Sports FIFA video game series since FIFA 16, which was the first time they ever included women players.
And she was immortalized in plastic form in LEGO's Icons of Play, set in 2023. She is genuinely integrated into global pop culture, from high politics all the way down to children's toys.
We also have to address her status as a fashion and style icon. Vogue noted how she intentionally developed her signature look and that swagger. Her aesthetic became completely inseparable from her brand of defiance and confidence.
And her high-profile endorsements reflect this cultural cachet. She has major contracts with Nike, Samsung, Subway, Hulu. But maybe the most culturally symbolic one was her announcement as one of the new faces of Victoria's Secret in 2021.
Why is that Victoria's Secret endorsement so significant?
Well, it represented a massive cultural pivot for that brand. Victoria's Secret had, for decades, been synonymous with this unattainable angel standard of beauty.
Right.
By bringing in Rapinoe, an outspoken, physically powerful, openly gay athlete activist, they were signaling this major shift toward embracing diversity, inclusion, and strength over their traditional hypersexualized marketing. Rapinoe wasn't just selling clothes, she was symbolizing a cultural shift in ideals.
It's a perfect capstone to her undeniable cultural footprint. And let's not forget the pure whimsy of it all either. The ticker tape parades in New York City in both 2015 and 2019, and that Northern California farm that created an entire corn maze shaped in the outline of her face.
I remember that. In 2015, that is a level of visibility, a level of cultural penetration that very few figures ever achieve.
So the legacy of Megan Rapinoe is this magnificent synthesis. On the field, she was a generational soccer talent. We know her for her crafty play, the technical beauty of the Olympicos, the precise game-winning crosses.
And off the field, she was defined by an unwavering, outspoken commitment to social justice, especially for LGBTQIA+ rights and for equal pay.
Her career was really a sustained, decade-long challenge to the status quo. She demanded institutional change from U.S. soccer, and she demanded ethical accountability from the nation as a whole.
Her legacy is this constant blend of political pressure and athletic excellence. She proved that you don't have to choose between performance and principle.
Yet, as we noted, her career concluded not with that golden trophy lift and a perfect farewell. It ended with a sudden, devastating Achilles injury just minutes into her final club match. And that came after a painful missed penalty kick in her final World Cup appearance.
Which brings us to a final, provocative thought for you to mull over. Rapinoe's entire career was built on confronting the messy realities of life, from her own family trauma to systemic inequalities. Does the public's inherent demand for a clean, triumphant narrative, a perfect exit, does that diminish the true significance of a legacy that was built on challenging the status quo, even when the final athletic moments are defined by loss and by pain?
When the greatest athletes don't get the fairy tale ending, how do we measure the victory redefined that they achieved outside of the traditional scoring column?
It's a vital question to consider.
It is. Thank you for diving deep with us today into the remarkable life and legacy of Megan Rapinoe.